Good afternoon, year three. I hope you've had a good day so far looking at your work within maths, English and reading, and I hope you're going to persevere now and really show what great scientists you are and how great a scientist you're going to become. Today, we're going to build on our knowledge of healthy bodies and our research looking at our pets from last week by starting to think about the job of the skeleton and how a skeleton supports and protects our body. Okay, we're going to think about how invertebrates are supported as well. Okay, so we're going to go through this and then you're going to have some work where you're going to be thinking about things. And I've got a bit of an extra task for you to do that could be a bit disgusting. Might make a bit of mess in the kitchen. We'll see about that. Okay. Right, guys. Now, I'd like you to start by thinking what would happen if we did not have a skeleton. Okay, so start thinking if we took out all of your bones, what would happen to you? Just have a little think. Thinking. Pausing. Thinking. Don't actually take the bones out. Please don't. No. Anch, don't take your bones out. Keep them in. Lovely job. Okie dokie. Right, guys. So I'm sure Tyrese as well has left his bones in. So everybody with your bones still in. Now, think about what would happen. Without a skeleton, it would be a big mess of skin, muscle, and organs in a puddle on the floor. It would be horrible. The skeleton supports the body and keeps everything in the right place. Our skeletons also help protect our internal organs. There's lots of jobs that our skeleton does, but basically, if we didn't have a skeleton, we'd be like this. It'd be disgusting. Okay, it'd be absolutely horrible. Okay. Ugh. Okay, now let's move on. Let's not thinking about ourselves as big puddles on the floor, and let's start thinking about what this wonderful thing our skeleton does. So we've got the skeleton here that supports the body and it keeps everything in the right place. We're going to think about which internal organs it supports now. Okay, so if we have a look, we can see that we've got our skeleton over here. Now have a think about these 3 points which are indicated on the visual of the skeleton. What organs do you think our bodies are protecting? Sorry, our skeletons are protecting that are within our bodies. So have a look at these 3 points. What do you think is being protected by the skeleton? What's the job of the skeleton here? Okay, so have a think. Looking at those left-hand side ones first, we can see that the skull is protecting the brain, and then the ribs are doing this fantastic job of looking after our hearts, our lungs, our liver, and parts of other organs as well. So as you go through the school in year 4 and in year 6, you'll learn a great deal about our internal organs, and you'll learn about our digestive system in year 4. And our circulatory system in year 6, and you'll understand through that a lot more about the job of the ribs in protecting those elements, okay, and why it's so important. You can also think about our vertebrae, like our backbone, which protects our spine, okay, and enables us to be upstanding. Okay. Now, some animals are a bit different. They do not have a skeleton inside their bodies like we do, okay. These animals are called invertebrates, okay. So we're vertebrates, they're invertebrates, okay? If you just have a think, if you can pause your video for a second and think about any, and think about how they move, and think about how they protect themselves. It's where their skeleton's not inside their body. Pausing it, thinking. Okie dokie, guys, we've got some examples here. See if these are ones that you've thought of. First of all, what we've got are the lobsters, okay? These are invertebrates that have an external skeleton. So rather than being inside, it's outside. Now, again, please, year 3, do not take your bones out and stick them to your face. Don't do that. Okay, these skeletons that are external are like armor. Okay, so they're a little bit like our soldiers from 300 or 400 years ago who have armor all around them. But these lobsters have their external skeleton to protect them like armor. Their skeletons are made up of different segments, each with outer plates. So if you ever go to somewhere like Aston Hall, you'll see a soldier suit like that, whereas different bits that protect different parts of the body. Now, we don't have that anymore when we are walking around. What we have are skeletons within our bodies, okay, but lobsters have theirs externally. Snails are invertebrates that have an outer shell. Their shell isn't a skeleton. What it is essentially just for protection. Their bodies are made up with fluid and muscle, okay. So the slimy bit, the bit inside them, is made up of fluid and muscle. The outer shell is just for protection. It doesn't allow them to move around as such. Okay, it's just for protection. It's their home, really, isn't it? Okay, and then we've also got our worms, which do not have any shell for protection. Their bodies are made up of lots of segments and contain fluid and muscles. Okay, so we've got these different bodies here, different beings. Okay, so lobsters with their external skeletons, snails that have their outer shell, which is made of protection, and then we finally got our worms, which don't have either of them. Okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is, after having to think about our different beings, what I'd like you to do to begin with is tick which ones of these are true for our snails, our fish, our crabs, our dogs, our worms, and our spiders. And even if you do this, please don't put any spiders in the Year 6 classroom when we're back. Please keep them away. Okay, so have a go at this sheet to begin with. That shouldn't take you too long. Just give you a bit of consideration time about our snails, our fish, our crabs, dogs, worms, and spiders. Okay, so if you think about that. After that, you've got some coloured pieces of paper. So there's the internal skeleton ones, the protective shell, and 2 other colours. And what I'd like you to do is the animals that you've been given, I'd like you to cut them up and sort them. So identify which ones have internal skeletons, such as our dogs and our horses here, which have protective shells, such as our crabs here, and which are in the other 2 groups. So sort those through. Once you've sorted them, maybe you could go a bit further and you could think of other animals that you know which could fit in those groups, which we haven't drawn images of, which we haven't printed images of. And maybe with them, what you could do is then draw an image, and maybe you could Google it to find an appropriate image that you could draw. I'd be really impressed if I could see some super science drawings. Then what I'd like you to think about is what you learn about these different animals. Okay, so can you identify how these invertebrates support and protect themselves? So we've got snails, slugs, ants, spiders, crabs, oysters, octopus, and starfish. Why are they not all being squashed? Why are they not just being squashed all the time? How are they able to function still? What have they got inside? What if they don't have a skeleton inside the body? What do they have? How do they make sure that they're not all dead? So could you have a little look into those? Okay. If you can do that, that'd be fantastic. I know that's a bit tricky, and I know getting access to devices is a bit of a challenge, but maybe somebody at home might have a book which might have some interesting facts. And if you can only do it for some of these animals, that'd be fine anyway. If you can just have a look at some information about them. Now, this is the bit that I think is really exciting. And this is the bit where you can do a bit of a cackle and go, ha, 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 because Year 3, you are going to be Dr. Frankenstein. What you're going to do is you are going to design a new animal. Your new animal, you will need a name. You cannot call your new animal, for example, you cannot call it snail, because the snail already exists. So you're going to design your new animal. It might be like a snail, where it has a shell to protect it, but it also might have more eyes. It might move around in a different way. So you've got to give it a name. Again, Year 3, don't call it the Mr. Spring if it's scary and horrible. Give it a name. Now, you've got to decide what kind of skeleton it's got. Has it got an internal skeleton like people? Or has it got an external skeleton like our lobster? Or has it got a shell? Or has it got nothing like the worm? What kind of skeleton has it got? Then you've got to draw it. And this is where it gets really exciting. Now, if you've done that, brilliant. I can't wait to see what you're going to offer us. Now, if you're feeling really, really creative, and mum and dad or whoever else is at home will let you, can you see what's at home? Whether there's some old pasta, or there's some bits of card, or maybe there's some Play-Doh, or anything that you could make it with. And can you see if you can have a go at making your animal? Can you see if you can make it move? Have a little bit of an explore and see if you can create your monster. Now, again, I look forward to seeing some pictures of them. I absolutely do not want any scary monsters in the Year 3 or Year 6 classroom. Or if you do insist on bringing them in, keep them in the Year 3 classroom, because I won't be in there. Have a go at deciding what you could do for one, maybe with a skeleton, but with extra arms. Or maybe an external skeleton with those suits of armor, like the lobster. Or are you going to have something that's sliding around with fluid and muscle, but with a protective shell? Or finally, are we going to have something wiggly that can go here, there, and everywhere? Have a think about what you're going to do. That's your final task for today. Year 3, thank you for your attention as ever. I can't wait to see those scary monsters. But remember, at home, great. Year 3 classroom, okay. But keep them away from the Year 6 classroom, please. Thank you.